Testosterone cream application sites. I think everybody knows kind of baseline applying it to the scrotum is the best way to go, or at least applying some to the scrotum. There you're going to get a lot more DHT. You're going to get some degree of control of estrogen via the extra endogenously created DHT from that cream. But at the same time, you'll get less conversion to estrogen because more of it's converting to DHT if you're putting it on the testicles. But something to think about here is that it isn't always black and white in that you should apply it all to the scrotum and then just try to dial in. And if you can't dial in, you change the dosing and you increase the pump or decrease the pump or add more HCG. Sometimes it actually has to be applied in two different locations on your body for you to reach the right balance. So I want to talk about the sites that you apply cream, in which cases they make sense to do various different application sites, whether it's strictly scrotum or it's some on the bicep and some on the scrotum or some on the shoulder and some on the scrotum. Let's break this down because it actually does dramatically affect libido and erection quality and sensation if the protocol is not applied in the right places based on how you're responding to cream. This is the kind of nuance that folks definitely need to keep in mind when adjusting any protocol. I mean, small little variations in dosing, or like if you're doing injections in the injection site or the type of injection, these things make a difference. All right, so sit back. Let me break this down. Relax. Grab a beer. And let's discuss testosterone cream application sites, how to know if you're doing it right, the multiple variations that make sense, all targeted toward getting stellar libido and erections on test cream. All right, before we start the video, look, Cortex Labs, which is my company, is a TRT coaching and sexual dysfunction resolution company. You got a range of different products ranging from the source list. Hey, listen, if you need to get any anabolic you can think of, including high potency DHT, test of any ester, just get source list. It's 20% off right now. Code is on the screen and down in the description of this video. The most popular course that we have is Mastering Testosterone Cream for Libido and Erections, in which we'll discuss some of the stuff we're going to talk about today, but it's the protocols that work. If you can't dial in on cream, get this course. It's also 20% off. Lastly, I am a coach on TRT. What I do is fix libido, erection, sensation, climax problems for folks that have been on TRT, that are trying to switch esters, that are trying to find their dose, especially folks that have for a long time had a hell of a time dialing in. We'll fix the sexual function. You can hire me for any of the packages under a minute, livecortex.com. The 3 and the 6 month are discounted, 30% codes down below. Okay, so the basics. With testosterone cream, if you apply it to the scrotum, you got like 5 to 8x, maybe even 9x, 10x. Who really knows? But that's the range. Higher 5-alpha reductase enzymes on the scrotal skin than you do anywhere else. In fact, the scrotal skin is the highest permeability site for transdermal testosterone on the male body, period. We had determined this somewhere between 2012, 2015, maybe a little earlier than that, when they were running Testim and Androgel to try to figure out its efficacy. So usually you're going to want to apply all of the testosterone cream to the scrotum. And in most cases, so long as DHT is high and estrogen is in range, that dials people in. Again, as an aside, I am not a huge fan of the 200 milligram per milliliter scrotal cream. I think it's just too much testosterone and it makes it really difficult to dial in because, again, think about it. If you want to make changes that in small increments that do not disturb the system significantly in one direction or the other, but that get you closer to your sweet spot, it's a lot easier to dial in a lower concentration cream. So always push for 100 milligram per milliliter cream, preferably 25 milligrams per click. If your clinic gives you a problem or your doc gives you a problem, don't take no for an answer. Remember, these people are here to serve you. If you are aggressive with them and you state that this is what you want, eventually they will give you what you want. And those types of protocols, 100 milligram cream, 4 to 5 clicks a day, baseline 100 IU, minimum effective dose of HCG a day, 20 milligrams of DHEA every day. Folks usually land E2 at 25, 30, maybe even 35, which is tolerable for some people, but total T at peak 800, 900, DHT 60 to 90 nanograms per deciliter, maybe even higher. And that spot there is a great place to be. But let's shift gears into DHT dominance versus DHT-estrogen balance, because such a thing does exist and it can happen on cream. You might have your numbers in range, but at the tissue level, sometimes with just pure transcrotal cream, you're a little too DHT dominant, which means you'll have the erections. The erections will work. You'll have stellar morning erections and stellar nocturnal erections. I mean, you'll be so rigid, your girl, wife, etc., are going to notice it. But with too much DHT dominance, sometimes it sort of masks the libido optimizing aspect of estrogen being in the sweet spot. And it's almost as if your body treats that like you have low estrogen. In that case, again, you're going to have erections and they're going to be fine, especially the automatic, autonomic nervous system driven nocturnal and morning erections. But libido and sensation might take a hit because your body thinks you're kind of deficient in estradiol. In that case, if you're running 5 pumps of cream strictly on the scrotum, the move would be to change the application site to maybe 2 on the bicep or 2 on the shoulder and then 3 on the scrotum and see if that balances out. If it doesn't, you go 3 on the bicep or shoulder and then 2 on the scrotum and see if that balances things out. And if that doesn't, you might have to switch to 4, shoulder, bicep, forearm, and then 1 on the scrotum. Gives you the baseline DHT you need, but you're not in an excessively androgen-dominated state to the point where you feel like you've taken a mild AI, which is going to mute your libido and sensation to an extent. Now, here's a weird case. I want to share with you a case where this happened with a client of mine, and the numbers were in range. Everything was fine. Optimal, exactly where we want them to be, but the sexual function was inconsistent. What we ended up doing, which worked, again, I don't even care if it looks wacky, if it seems weird. I just care about what works, is every other day we change the application site. So it was 4 clicks of 100 milligram cream. It's 25 milligrams per application. So 100 milligrams of transdermal testosterone per day. That was initially all in the scrotum. But then the numbers look good, and we started getting these side effects where it was essentially like erections were amazing, libido and sensation started to fall off where they'd previously been okay. That tells me they're estrogen blocking to some extent. Not that you need more serum estrogen, but a little better estrogen signaling at the tissue level and a little less of an androgen-dominated state. So what we tried first was 2 pumps on the forearm, 2 pumps on the scrotum. Now that got the client, in this case, 75, 80%, right? Better, but not quite there. What ended up working, oddly, was an every other day switch of the site of the transcrotal cream, the transdermal testosterone cream. So one day, it's all 4 pumps on the scrotum. The next day, it's all 4 pumps on the forearm bicep. Now, I can't really explain this other than to say that the androgen-estrogen state ratio, if you will, I think I use this in a different context than people typically talk about it, just needed to be balanced out in that way. These nuances really do matter, and there are a select few, I wouldn't wager like most people on TRT, but there are some unlucky individuals who are that sensitive to those small changes. Sometimes on cream, you could end up in somewhat of an actual serum estrogen deficiency relative to your sexual function and where it needs to be. It could be at 21 or something, but you need to be 25, 27. It's just kind of the zone within the zone there where people get everything. The erections are there, the libido's there, the sensation's there, the climax is there. Everything's easy, and you don't have to focus during sex. You should never have to do that. All you really have to do in those cases is, again, apply some of the cream elsewhere, right? Because if you're putting it on the forearm, you had been putting it all on the scrotum, and you're somewhat estrogen deficient, right? Erections are good, but again, libido and sensation is a little muted. You need more estrogenic signaling, maybe even some more estrogen serum if it's at 21. You just apply more to the forearm or the bicep or the shoulders, wherever you decide to put it. I think all those sites are pretty equal in their absorption. Then the E2 goes from 21 to 27. Sensation comes back, libido comes back, the person's completely dialed in. Now, usually with testosterone cream, as you'll see in the forums, you kind of end up with where this guy is. And this is one of those cases where if he didn't have good libido and sensation, he would need to change the application sites. But check this out. On test cream, I'm assuming this is, it's hard to say. I mean, he's doing 4 clicks daily in the morning. He might be one of those people that isn't a hyper responder to the 200 cream and he's on 200 cream, but it might be 100 milligram cream. We actually don't know what it is. But tests went from 300, hypogonadal basically, to 1366, which is awesome. You're anabolic, you feel energized, you probably feel fucking awesome there. And then estradiol, which was 16 at the time that he started, down there at 300 nanograms per deciliter total testosterone, only went to 20. Cholesterol went down 20 points. Hematocrit went up a little bit. PSA went down. Those of you DHT kills the prostate, and it actually doesn't. But like, 1366 total tests. I mean, this is a super impressive ratio. Doesn't always work out this way, but it's somewhat close. Cream often lands people in these really good ratios of test DHT to estradiol. Estrogen's only at 20. I mean, that is amazing. But in this case, if it works out that way and sexual function's great, fine, you ride off into the sunset. But if it doesn't, and libido and sensation are not good, then those 4 clicks on the scrotum, I'd go 2 and 2. 1 on the forearm, 2 on the forearm, bicep area, and then 2 on the scrotum. And then again, it balances out that androgen dominant state and fixes libido and sensation. I just want to make the point that it's not always the case that you have to apply it all to the scrotum. Sometimes if the numbers look good and that's not working in terms of symptoms, you got to apply some of that cream elsewhere. Another one, testosterone cream. Very, very surprised how well testosterone cream has worked for me. It's honestly changed my life. Look at these bloods, all right? So that's prior. You got total, no wait, what is this? This is the ultimate endpoint here. We got estradiol. This is the picomolars per liter. So he's over in the UK or EU or somewhere. Here, I'll just move myself so you guys can see this. Estradiol at 120 picomolars per liter. That is well within range. But look at total testosterone, man. It's high. It's above their range of nanomolars per liter over there. I mean, for us, it'd probably be 1,400, 1,500. It's a lot. Same thing with free testosterone. This is pretty common, guys, on test cream. Now, if that guy feels amazing, leave it alone. But if there's libido and sensation problems, it just has to be applied to different sites. Split it up, half and half on the forearm, half on the scrotum. But here's kind of the caveat in a situation that I think illustrates exactly what I'm saying. This guy tried scrotal cream, whereas previously on injections was sick of needles. Scrotal cream skyrocketed the libido. He says, I can't even describe how much, but the only thing was that it never increased erectile quality. So, lukewarm erections but crazy libido, what does that tell you? We don't know where he was applying this. Yeah, no, it looks like purely the scrotum. So this is just an indication of too elevated estradiol, right? In this androgen dominant versus estrogen dominant versus balanced state between DHT specifically and estradiol, and this guy was too in favor of estrogen. So that's where the erectile quality fails or isn't great, but the libido might still be intact or even high. For some individuals, estrogen just skyrockets their libido. It's usually within a range, 35, 45 estradiol, just a little bit over range. Again, libido says yes, Johnson says no. It's very common. It goes back to cypionate, erectile quality, return. Yeah, just over aromatizing. So that's a case there where it's actually just too much cream in general. So had he reduced the dose of cream, the estrogen would have went down a little bit, libido still intact, but erection quality would have returned. I'm just trying to get people to think a little bit outside of the box when it comes to cream. You think transcrotal cream, the DHT is important and necessary and optimal. We should just apply it all to the scrotum. And in some cases, it just doesn't work that way. It doesn't end up working out for a favorable sexual experience. The person has great erection quality, insane nocturnals, but libido and sensation are not great, somewhat muted, because you're too much in a DHT dominant state. That can happen, and folks need to be aware of that. Over the course of a 14-day period, call it, of using cream, listen, you got to be aware of these minor things, like if you're too DHT dominant, libido is going to go south because there's a little bit of estrogen blocking and maybe not enough estrogen in the serum. And if you're too estrogen dominant, erectile quality is going to fail, but libido might be intact. In some cases, people will end up dialing in, doing funky stuff like just taking a day off, of the cream. They still have a little physiologic testosterone from the day prior. They don't entirely feel tired. Maybe they don't feel their best, but then the estrogen comes down. They end up dialing in. I've seen all kinds of things with cream. Bottom line is not necessarily even the cookie cutter suggestions, even on a finely tuned optimized protocol of low concentration cream and 4 to 5 clicks a day with baseline of HCG, it doesn't always dial people in. So you might have to get creative and start applying it to different sites to finely tune the libido and the erection quality. Okay. This dance, we've got to be in a narrow window. Most of us. There are some anomalous few lucky motherfuckers that can just dose whatever amount of testosterone and everything ends up being fine, but that's just not most of us. All right. So it's not just black and white exclusively on the scrotum. Sometimes you've got to change application sites based on the dominance of one hormone or the other. If you're DHT dominant, man, you're going to meet your libido and your sensation. If you're estrogen dominant, you'll have some of that libido, maybe some sensation. but the erectile quality is going to fail. Look, I break a lot of this down, but mostly the protocols that actually work with testosterone cream in mastering testosterone cream for libido and erections. It's the effective guidebook. It's a video course that teaches you how to fix, resolve, or optimize libido and erection quality, sensation, climax on test cream, because it's not necessarily easy. Again, sometimes cookie cutter doesn't work. Sometimes you have to execute some creativity to get the protocol dialed in. This is 20% off right now. It's down in the description. This video code is 20 now. Source list. Hey, look, if you need access to DHT itself, I mean, sometimes that's just what it's going to take to dial people in. And it's really fun to experiment with it. But also test if any ester, just get source list. It's 20% off. Code is down in the description of this video. Lastly, look, I'm a coach on TRT, and this is predominantly what I do. If you've got libido and erection, sensation, climax issues, on HRT, HRT plus, pure TRT, just book me if you've got the budget. This is what I do every day. This is what I like to do, and we'll fix the sexual dysfunction rather rapidly. Right now, I wanted to say that 3-month and 6-month ongoing one-on-one coaching programs with me are 30% off. That is a huge discount. I ran it on the weekend, and I decided to extend it through this week. The code for that is 30 now. So if you're looking to book either of these, now is absolutely positively the time to do it. We had some slots open up. So we're ready, man. Let's get it done. Otherwise, look, I mean, some folks don't want the long coaching cycles, and that's totally understandable. I just created the TRT Sexual Function Protocol Blueprint Consult, single session consult, 30-minute call with me, 3 to 5 action routes on a TRT protocol tracker, an online document targeted toward you. I will sit and think about your scenario. I will fact find and hear your situation and craft protocols for you to fix sexual dysfunction on TRT. You can book any of this stuff in under a minute. All right, my brothers. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. Like the video. Yeah, makes a huge difference. Tells YouTube to send our content out to more people, which is what we need to do. Sub to the channel. If you're new here, listen, I'd love to have you on board. We do content like this for many years in history and forever in the time continuum. The stuff that folks need to hear. Sub, I'd love to have you on board. Otherwise, kick ass, rock on, enjoy the rest of your day. Much more content coming soon. And I'll talk to you boys in the next one.